evening. Welcome to Earth to the Other Side. My name is John Glasspool, and tonight is a special night. I am speaking with Sharon Milliman, and Sharon is very inspiring. She has some beautiful experiences to share with us, and in fact, she was one of the videos that inspired myself to and this channel when I first saw it several years ago. And I'm just so happy to have her on the show. Sharon, welcome to the channel. It's so nice to have you.
No, thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm so excited about this interview. So I just, don't want to delay any further. I want to just give you the floor.
I was 13 and I was taking swimming lessons at the Y. And my instructor wanted me to dive headfirst in the 10-foot section of the pool. And I just couldn't do it. There was something in me that was just, I can't do this. So I sat back and I watched all the other kids, and they were diving in and coming out, and they were fine. But when it came to my turn, I couldn't. And my instructor said, "You're going to do this dive or I'm going to throw you in." And the next thing I know, he grabs me around the waist and he throws me in the water. And I was struggling. Um, I was shocked that he did it, but I kept going down, and then I would come back up, and I'd go down and I'd come back up. And I was taking in all this water. And um, it seemed like forever, but it was probably only just a minute or two. Um, and then I'm sinking to the bottom of the pool. And so I'm laying on the bottom of a 10 feet of water on top of me. And I could hear people screaming. Um, so I was out of my body at that time because I could see all the way around the pool without moving. And I saw my mom's face. She was over on the other section, clear across the room, up in the balcony where the parents sat. And I heard the lifeguard teacher that was taking care of the little babies. And I heard her scream at my teacher. She said, "Bob, go in and get her." And then I saw his face, and he was like frozen. He just couldn't move. And so I'm listening, I'm watching. All of the children were panicking, the teachers were screaming, that my mother, I could see her face like it was right here, right in front of me. And she had this horrified look on her face. And all the while this was going on, I looked up and I saw this. At first, I thought it was a light bulb, and I thought, what's a light bulb doing in a pool? That's not very safe. And then the light kept getting bigger and brighter, but it was warm, and I felt cozy in the water. I didn't feel cold, and I wasn't scared, and I wasn't hurting. Um, Now, when I first went in the water, there was absolute sheer panic. I go, what did you just do? But by this time, I felt no fear, nothing. So I'm laying in the water, and I can see this light, and I can see it getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I don't know if I was going up to it or it was coming down to me, but it was like this close to my face. And then all of a sudden I heard this, what sounded like a metal door slamming, and it echoed. And then I could feel all this pain, and I'm throwing up water, and they're doing CPR. And it, what had happened was the lifeguard that was across from us that had the middle-aged kids, he jumped in and he came and he got me out and was doing CPR and got me out of the pool, got me breathing again. And then the next thing I know, I could see my mom's face, and she's next to me. She's right there next to me. And then all these kids were surrounding me. So when I looked over, all I could see were all these legs and feet, But that was the first experience. But um my mom and I never talked about it. I had no idea what that light was or what had happened to me, or I think that she was just so afraid. It was terrifying for her. And so we just never talked about it.
I can imagine. Yeah. And did you feel like you were always in the water during the entire experience, or did it feel as at that one point you were just sort of suspended in nothingness?
Um, I felt I was in the water, but I was away from my body,
Hmm.
if that makes sense. I wasn't that little girl that was stuck on the bottom of the pool. I was kind of either next to her or floating around or something, because I could see 360 degrees. What I know, I could see everything that was going on. I could hear it all. And I'm not sure whether people can hear that kind of detailed stuff under 10 feet of water. I don't know. I don't get in the water anymore. So,
Imagine. Yeah. Wow. And whatever happened with the lifeguard that was pushing you, or the instructor who pushed you into the water? Did you guys ever discuss that afterwards?
no, I still remember his name, and I never went back.
Hmm.
I'm assuming he got fired. I mean, because everybody was yelling at him. um, and he didn't come in to save me, and he should have.
Oh, thank
Yeah.
God you got out of that one. So, oh yeah, moving on to the next one then. What happened?
Okay, it happened in 2005, and I was talking on a cordless phone, not a cell phone, but you know, one of those old-fashioned
Like people used to have like
phones.
conversations on and stuff. Yeah, I remember those days.
Yeah. So I'm sitting out on my back steps, and there's like a little roof that goes over the steps, and I hear that it starts to rain, and I don't know if people understand the kind of weather that we get here in West Virginia, but when it thunders and lightnings, it's thundering and lightning everywhere. It's like not just one bolt of lightning and one crack of thunder. It's thunder over here and thunder over there and lightning bolts everywhere. And
Sounds like the
so,
Wizard of Oz.
yeah, when we have storms, we have some bad storms. But I heard a crack. Well, I heard a rumble of thunder, and it was like not near my house. It was away. And then I saw a lightning bolt. I heard a crack, and a lightning bolt came out of the sky, and it hit my right arm. And when it did, it went through my body under the house and blew the transformer in front of the house. So, um, when it hit my body, it left char marks on the concrete steps where I was sitting. And I I died, but I didn't know I was dead. And I just kind of peeled up out of my body. And it was kind of strange because I could see myself laying there crumpled in the backyard, but it that kind of went over my head, I guess. I didn't realize that I was dead because I felt fine. I mean, when I first got hit by the lightning, it was a searing, agonizing, just burning sensation. And then boom, it was done. It was, once I was out of my body, it didn't hurt anymore. There was nothing. So I thought, well, I feel okay. I'm going to go in the house. So I'm either floating or walking, I don't know which, up the stairs and into my kitchen. And I look around and nothing in there is mine. And I'm looking at the curtains over my sink, and they were not my, excuse me, they were not my curtains. And I thought, okay, that's weird. So I go into the dining room and I look at all my furniture, and it's my house, but it's not my stuff. And I didn't know what in the world was going on. I mean, this furniture was like back in the 20s or 30s. It was not my stuff. So I walk into the living room because I hear this old time radio show playing. Sounded like something back in the Waltons, but I didn't know where it was at. And I was walking around trying to find that sound, and the furniture in the front room wasn't my stuff. And I knew that my family was in the house, but I couldn't find them anywhere. And I started to just really freak out because I couldn't understand what in the world was going on. No, where was everybody? What was all this stuff? And it's my house, but not my house. What's going on? And just about the time that I totally lost it, there was this huge, huge, formless, loving presence that appeared. And all I could feel was the calm and peace and love like I've never felt before. Just totally every cell in my body was just oozing this love. And it was just, I was just like melting. I don't, I felt so comforted, and I wasn't scared anymore. And it was just like, okay, I'm okay. And we, there were these beautiful pink and gold clouds that appeared at that time. And it was kind of like he picked me up and we started moving sideways. We didn't go up or down, we moved sideways, laterally. And it was very, very fast. And we were going through this pink and gold clouds at just really fast speed. And then we got to the entrance of a garden. And so I'm standing with this huge, gigantic, loving presence that was formless. And these two men stepped forward and greeted me just at the entrance of the garden. And they were wearing these ivory, it was an ivory linen clothing that they were wearing. And what they did was they took a close-up of the weave pattern that the clothes were made out of, and they kind of just like stuck it up right up here in my face. And I didn't understand what that meant, but it was a herringbone weave pattern. Said it wasn't until several years later that I learned what that meant. But anyway, they greeted me, and at first I thought they were angels because they were glowing. And then it hit me, when they smiled, they looked exactly like my dad when my dad was a young man. So I knew who they were. They were my brothers who had died when they were babies. But at this point, they were fully grown men, late 20s, early 30s. And they were just beautiful. And they were just kind of glowing from the inside out. And so we had our family reunion, and it was just really wonderful. I kept telling him, Dad would be so proud of you. Oh, I wish he could see you now. So we did all that. And then we moved a little bit further into the garden, and Stephen got on one side of me, and Michael got on the other. And this loving presence moved from beside me to behind me. And then it was time for my life review. And what that was a screen and an old-fashioned movie reel. And I was watching this black and white movie, a real fast, old-fashioned movie of my life from the time I was born until that moment that I died. And I watched it and I thought, okay. And that was over quick. And what am I missing? And I must live a boring life because that was really fast, you know? And I asked my brothers about it and they kind of grinned. And I thought, oh, now come on. Tell me, don't play the brother card. But what I learned was that because I didn't judge myself, I watched it, it was over, done, that was it. I didn't make any comments or no, I didn't know I was supposed to. So I didn't. And so it was over. And I didn't judge me and nobody else judged me. And there were not only were my brothers there, but there was a whole bunch of people that showed up that were from all different time periods. And I knew who they were, but I didn't know where I knew them from. And they were all young. Um, they were all in different time period clothing and that kind of thing. But they were all young. I didn't see one old person there, and I didn't see one sick person there. Nobody was crying, nothing, was no pain or suffering, nothing like that. They all had that real, you know, pink skin and glowy and happy and beautiful. And I thought, so my brothers actually told me I died. I was like, oh, so this is death. Okay, I can do this. It was because the garden was just absolutely breathtaking. The colors were so rich and vibrant, flowers. I mean, there were colors I didn't even have names for. And the smell, I could see and I could feel and I could touch and I could, smell and I could, all of these things because my senses were so heightened and aware. I was so aware and I could see again all the way around without turning my head. And it was just the air was sweet and crisp and clean, and the flowers were beautiful. And I heard music, and it was what I call big music, really big, like orchestra, a new age, or with lots of instruments. The music was just so beautiful. And what I learned was that everything has a vibration. The trees, the leaves, the grass, the rocks, the water, all of it, it all has different vibration. And when you put all of those sounds together, you have this orchestra and this choir, and everything is singing praises to God. And that's the music that I heard. So then I see these I can see buildings on the outskirts of what I call the glorious city. And I could see that there was a library, and I call it the Hall of Knowledge, but I'm not sure that's what it's called. So I saw all of these buildings. There was like a spiritual hospital for people who had died traumatic deaths or whatever. And they go there, and there's mentors and teachers and people there that will bring these people gently to the awareness of what's happened and where they are. And I had found that heaven was very, very gentle place. And there's not this, shock value that this earth seems to enjoy. But it's very, very calming and very, very gentle. And I saw a place where babies and children go. And it's all about spiritual growth. So the children, they're running around playing, and they are the age that they are, and they grow up to a certain age. And the older people who've passed away, they go back in time to a certain age. So everybody's about the same age, around 25, 30, somewhere in there. And they had loved ones and teachers and angels and mentors and so on, and they're taught spiritual knowledge and spiritual growth. And the schools that we have here are science and math and that kind of thing, but that's in heaven, it's different. The schools are all about spiritual growth. Um, then I saw some houses that were sitting around. One was sitting on a bluff, and I could see the ocean below it, and it was made of stones. And then I saw one sitting behind it, and it had beautiful rose gardens. And so while my brothers were walking me through the garden, and I'm looking at all of this stuff, um, there's a grove of trees over in the corner, and Jesus walks out of the corner. I don't know what the trees were, probably olive trees or something. I don't know. But he walks out from this grove of trees and he walks up to me, and he was just absolutely breathtaking. And he told me that he loved me. Don't be afraid. I'm with you. It's okay. Everything's fine. And that was my first clue that I was going back, but it went over my head because it was just like, oh. And so my brothers disappeared. I don't know where they went to. But anyway, Jesus walked me over to this grove of tree, or I mean this wooded glen. And the wooded glen, it had there was a log. There was a stream by it, and there was a log laying down. And I went and sat down on the log, and there was a man sitting on the other end of the log. And he we started talking, and he asked me, he said, and that man was God. Now, God is spirit. So he's he can be anything he wants. He's the creator. He can be anything he wants, whenever he wants, and he can show up as anything. But for me, he wanted to talk to me. He wanted to get a point across to me. So he appeared as a very loving, caring man. And yes, I saw his face, and no, I didn't burn up. but um, but what I realized is that that was the face he wanted me to see, and it could have been any face, whatever he decided. But I think that he realized, okay, well, she got struck by lightning. I'm not showing up as a burning bush. That'll scare her to death. And, I'm not into sci-fi, so he's not going to show up as a goat with three heads or whatever. So he picked an appearance that he wanted me to see. So we started talking, and he asked me, he said, what would you do if it was just me and you? And I was like, what? I had no idea what did that question even mean? And I was like, I don't know what you're talking. I don't know what you mean. So he said, and he said it again. What would you do if it was just me and you? And I was trying so hard to understand the question. And I said, I don't understand. So he said, well, come with me. So we walk a little bit um, deeper into the woods where there was a clearing. And he waved his hand, and when he did, the sky opened up, and he showed me the vastness of the universe with nothing in it, the planets and the stars and the different colored gases and things like that. And I looked at him and I said, but it didn't have anything in it. There were no trees, no cars, no houses, no people, no animals, nothing. And I looked at him and I said, that's really big. And if it's all of that and just me and you would be so sick of me after the first 10 minutes with all my questions and checks that you wouldn't like me anymore. And he kind of threw his head back and he just laughed. And when he did, his eyes were all sparkly. And he's got a very infectious laugh. So when he was laughing, I started laughing. And I thought to myself, that was the dumbest thing you could have ever said. Who says that to God? But then We went back and we sat back down on the log, and he asked me the question again. What would you do if it was just me and you? Well, I don't know why I said this because I've never read the Quran. I don't know anything about it. I don't know, you know, the Islamic tradition or anything like that. But um, I said, God, your 100th name is God is everywhere, God is nowhere, and God is in me. And he said, that's right. And then I look at this tree that's in front of me that must be a bazillion years old, and it's so big, it's huge. And I could see the detail of the bark, and I could see the roots beneath the ground, and I could see the nutrients that the tree was pulling from the soil, and it was going up into the tree, and it was going into the veins in the leaves, and the sun was doing something to it, and it was changing whatever it was. And you know the trees clean the air, we breathe the air. So it's everything is connected to everything else, even to the soil, to the worms, the bugs, everything is connected, and everything is dependent upon everything else, and it's what he wanted me to see.
It's so interesting. Your story is, it still amazes me, even though I've already heard it. But when you were like in the house and you saw like this kind of reddish pink, well, not pink, I guess it was like a reddish tone, right? You said it was a different tone,
Well, when I
color,
first went in there, it was a burnt gold look to
burnt
everything.
gold. Yeah. Do you think? I mean, you must have been in some sort of alternate dimension, or do you think your head was just playing games with you at that moment? What do you think was happening?
No, I've had a lot of people tell me that uh, the luck, being hit by lightning is such a powerful amount of electricity that it kind of knocked me back either into another realm or back in time, because well that uh, and that was a researcher from ions that asked me or told me that. And I was like, wow, I never thought about it. And he said, do you have any connection with the 20s or 30s? I said, I wasn't alive in the 20s or 30s. As far as I know, no.
How old is your house? Was it there for a long
Oh
time
yeah.
prior? Yeah. Hmm.
Oh yeah. It was that house was built in, I think, 1912.
Wow, it would
And
have been
so,
so amazing had you seen other people, you know?
well, that's the thing. I don't know if there were other people that saw me and I appeared to them as a ghost. I did not see people. I just saw furniture, but I don't know what people on the other side saw. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So you don't know,
People,
maybe there were people there, but you didn't see them, just like they wouldn't have seen a ghost, possibly.
right.
Is that what you mean? Okay.
Yeah.
Hmm. Never
I,
really
I
thought of it that way.
actually felt like a ghost for a
Did
couple
you?
minutes. And I thought, that's kind of what I panicked. I thought, oh heck no. You know, if I'm dead, I'm not getting stuck here in this house. It actually looked like my house. I mean, I could get around in it. I knew where the rooms were. I knew where the stairs were. I knew, you know, the only thing that was different was the furniture and the decorations and
But
all
there
of
was
that.
nothing of yours in it, right? Like none of your
Right.
personal,
Nothing,
nothing.
nothing. And I heard that radio. I was
Hmm.
like, what? You know,
You were in a
it was,
different time. Like you were in a different era. You must have,
I
because
think so.
everything runs simultaneously, right? So you sort of popped into a different timeline, I think.
Very possibly, but it was not a timeline I wanted to be in.
No, no.
If I was going to go to another timeline, I would pick something else
Yeah.
personally.
And then the presence that was around you. Um, this was like a godly, felt like a God presence, source presence. It was
Yes,
enormous,
it
right?
did.
All
Absolutely.
loving, unconditional love type
Yeah,
feeling.
huge, but huge, bigger than my house. And this was like a 3-story Victorian house.
Mm.
And it was almost like I had the feeling that he had to kind of go like this with his head because but he was just so big that the house, he was uncontainable. He was bigger than the house, but he was big. And I call God a he because that's how he appeared to me. A lot of people make comments about that. And I'm just like, but that's how he chose to appear to me as either a loving older brother or a loving younger father or something,
Yeah, that
you
makes
know.
sense to me. That makes total sense to me. I mean, the way they appear is going to be a very personal thing.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
And then they say, well, you can't see the face of God and live. Well, I was dead and I saw the face that he wanted me to see. And that may not be his real face because he's spirit. So,
Right. That's how he
you know,
appeared. But I'm sure some of our viewers are going to be curious about what that face looked like. So if you would indulge me just for 2 seconds to give sort of somewhat of a description, physical description of this non-physical being that you were with.
he was absolutely beautiful. He had, um, he's the one that had the blue eyes. He had, but he had black hair and blue eyes, and his hair was really curly, and it was not long. Not, I mean, it was to here maybe, but it when I talk about a man with long hair, I'm talking long, long hair, and his was not long, long hair, and but he was so beautiful, and he had a beard, and he there was a picture in a movie that a little boy saw. Um, and it's called The Prince of Peace, and some girl drew it or something. And the little boy said, "That's Jesus." Well, my husband and I went to the movie when it came here, I'd never heard of her. I'd never heard of him. I didn't know what was going on. We went to the movie and the picture flashed across the screen, and I'm like, oh my God, that's God. That's God. That's not Jesus. That's God. Everybody in the movie is turning looking at me, and I'm going, I'm sorry, but that's God. That's not Jesus. But that's what he looked like.
That's cool.
He was really beautiful. And when he laughed, his eyes sparkle. And he
Yeah.
was just super, he had a super personality,
Yeah.
just a very loving, gentle personality, and very patient. And with me, you have to be very patient because everything goes over my head. I had no clue
How old
what
were
he
you
was.
at the time? Earthly
I
years?
was 43, 40,
43?
43. Yeah, it was 2005.
Okay.
So now you know.
So, and you had mentioned like spiritual schools, in heaven, like
Yes.
spiritual growth schools for spiritual growth. I believe our souls come to Earth to evolve and grow in the physical world as well as probably spiritually as well, right? I mean, probably
Well,
both.
that's what it's in the human experience that your soul does the most growing.
Right.
And it's the quickest growing, and it's, painful living here. And
Hmm.
our lessons here are hard. It's very hard to be here. Everybody that I saw was very busy. They were helping each other. They were having family reunions. And there were animals. There was rolling hills and valleys and rivers and water and just, I mean, your animals that you love are there. So your beloved pets are there, and if you always wanted to be a sheriff in the wild, wild west, and you never got a chance to do that while you're living here, well, guess what? You can do that there. Um, you know, it anything that you want to do, that you want to experience, you can, as long as it doesn't go against the will of God. You know, you're not breaking any spiritual laws doing it, then you can go back and forth in time, because there is no time in heaven.
So what you're referring to is like manifesting whatever we want in heaven, in that realm. We can just manifest it as long as it's, yeah.
Right. While when I was there, I was taken to a room, and inside the room there was a party going on, and the people were dressed in these magnificent gowns and the jewels, and there was a man sitting. And okay, so the room had a blush pink carpet on marble floors, and it had mahogany walls and these fancy pictures on the walls, and a chandelier that was bigger than my house. you know and there was a piano, a huge beautiful piano over in the corner, and the guy had tails on his coat, and he was sitting there playing the piano, and some of the people were dancing and singing, and some of the people were eating, because there was a table on the opposite side of the room, and it had candelabras and these beautiful flower arrangements that matched the colors of the women's dresses. And there were silver trays with meats. Yes, meats. And no, animals do not get killed in heaven. God can manifest anything with a mere thought. So, yes, it was meat and cheeses and breads and pastries and fruits and vegetables and anything that you could possibly want for a party food. It was there. And there was a man who walked in the room, and he had now the men were all in these tuxes and fancy suits, so I don't know who this particular man was, but he was carrying a silver tray that had champagne glasses on them. And now, I didn't say there was champagne in the glasses, I just said they were champagne. And he was passing them out. Now, I don't know who the party was for, but it was extremely festive, and it was just absolutely magnificent. And I wanted to stay. So when I had the conversation with God, God was telling me that he didn't make he I had been my whole adult life, I had been told that I was fat and I was ugly and I was stupid and I was this and I was that. And um I was buying into that. And he told me, he says, I don't make mistakes. I don't make junk. You are not all the things that the world is telling you that you are. You are what I tell you you are. And you are not that. And he was telling me that he loved me, and that he had a purpose for me, that I am not a mistake. And um that's what I needed to hear, because I was really buying into what the world was telling me. And I was believing that I was not worth anything. And I believe that's what he brought me there to tell me. We kept on talking a little bit more. And then two angels came, and they took me to this lake. And I looked down into the water was like glass. It was so calm. It was like glass. Perfect fishing place, where the water is so calm. But anyway, I looked down into the water, and I could see the earth below. And I could see future world events. And back then, it was 2005. So what I saw is the stuff that's happening right now. So the division and the riots, and the extreme weather changes. And yes, there have been extreme weather, and there have been riots all throughout history, but not like we're having them now. And this was back in 2005, and we were not having this kind of stuff back then that we are having now. And that's what I saw a lot of. that kind.
Specifically, like, did you see, that Trump as president or Biden or anything like that? Just out of curiosity.
I saw very clearly governments being overthrown. People were sick and tired of the corrupt um, leaders that we have, and not just in this country, but eh, you know, all over. And it's like they're all in cahoots with each other, and they're all buying and selling weapons, and they're all doing this and that and help patting each other on the back, but they're all just terribly corrupt. And I saw the corruption. The way I saw it was it looked like black clouds hanging over the capitals. And so I understood that it meant that they were very corrupt. Um, and um, and I saw the weather, the tsunamis and the earthquakes and all of that, but they were very, very extreme. You know, I saw rivers swelling and spilling out. The Mississippi swelled and split the United States in two. Um, 6 waves water hit the land, so there were tsunamis involved. Um, there, I have a document that I have everything written down on. I saw the Ferguson thing happen, and I did not have a clue what that was. My husband had to tell me that was Ferguson. What I saw was I saw the fire on one side. I saw a bunch of police in the street. I saw someone in dark clothes throw something heavy through a plate glass window. And then I heard 3 gunshots, and there was this young black man laying dead in the street. And then, I mean, people were running around, and there were, like Molotov cocktails going off, and, that kind of stuff. It was just crazy stuff. And I was like, why am I seeing this? And then and I saw it back in 2005, and my husband was the one that had to tell me that's what you saw. I didn't realize what I had seen. I saw, the COVID stuff, or what I think is COVID stuff. It might be something, coming down the line that hasn't come yet. But there were people behind it. They had these 2 long tables. They looked like cafeteria tables side by side to make this long table. And on one side, there were medical personnel in hazmat suits and face gear and all that kind of stuff. And the people on the other side, there were hundreds, hundreds, and hundreds, and they were all lined up, and they were from every race, every color, every size, you know, but they all had the masks on, but they were very excited, not happy, but nervous and afraid. And they were getting injections, but these injections were not what they thought they were getting. And that's all I understood about that. And then when COVID happened, I'm like, oh my God, was that COVID that I saw?
Did you feel
There,
like when these things started to unfold in our now reality, did you have that recognizable, did you have that familiarity with it? And did you say to yourself, wow, this is part of what I saw in
yes,
2005?
yes, I've said that to my husband so many times. I think,
Hmm.
yeah,
Wow.
yes. But then I start to question, well, maybe it's something that hasn't happened yet. Maybe it's something that's coming down the line, something similar to what this is. The third one, actually, it picked up where my second one left off. And I saw all the landmarks, everything that I saw in the second one, I saw in the third one. So that was, um, I was like, yes, I knew I was in heaven. Um, but what happened was I had a strangulated bowel. I had to have a emergency surgery for bowel blockage. And so they have me on the table, and I come out of myself and I'm looking down on them, the doctors and the nurses, and they had these blue hats on and these blue gloves on, and they had their hands inside of me, and I could see the blood on the blue gloves. And I was like, that is disgusting. So I went up in the corner of the room so I couldn't see inside my body. I didn't want to see inside my body. So I go up in the corner of the room and I'm sitting there and in the corner. And all of a sudden, I could still see what they were doing. And it was like, this is just like really gross. And I don't want to see this. So there was this like upside down, it looked like a upside down whirlpool when it was going up this way. And it was sort of a rainbow sparkly thing. And I thought, well, you know what? That looks a lot better than gross, icky, disgusting medical stuff. So I went right up and just right up through there. And I found myself standing at the golden wall that surrounded the city, what I call the glorious city. So I'm right there at the wall, and the gates are open like 2 feet down from me, but it doesn't dawn on me to move my feet and go through the gates. And I could hear music playing on the other side of the wall. I could hear people talking, dishes clanging. They were going to have another party for someone. And so I'm thinking, now, how am I going to, because the wall was so thick, it was like pure solid gold cinder blocks, one on top of the other. And it was so tall. And that's the barrier. I couldn't get through the barrier. So it was like, doggone, it's not my time again. But there was this little beagle puppy, and he started jumping on me, and he was barking, and he wanted played with. So I was actually interacting with this little brown and white beagle puppy, and we were playing. And I look out, and there's this beautiful field of real tall grass and wildflowers. And then on the other side of this meadow, there was, on the left-hand side, all the way at the end, that's the garden where I was before. And on the right side, about halfway between the flowers, the meadow and the garden, is this field stone wall that had pink roses growing up and over it. And it was, all of that stuff was there when I was in my second near-death experience. When I was going through the garden, I could see the field stone wall outside the garden. And I saw the glorious city, and I saw the golden wall. I had no idea how big it was, though, because I was seeing it from a distance. But so I'm standing there and I'm thinking, I'm going to jump it. So I start jumping. Yeah, no, that's not going to work. And it just never dawned on me. Can I get through it? Can I walk through it? Because I saw somebody go through it. And I thought, now why can't I do that? But I couldn't. It was so solid. So I was just playing with the puppy. And I saw all these people pouring out of the garden. And they were, from all hundreds of people coming out of the garden, and they were walking through the meadow. I saw 2 Middle Eastern men, and they were wearing the white thing on their head and the robes, and they were young, and they were looking at each other, and they were laughing and talking, and everybody had their own angel, and the angel was taller and more illuminated. So that's how I knew the difference between the angels and the people. So I saw the 2 Middle Eastern men, and they went right into the city. I saw uh, a young man who looked like he might have been a construction worker. He had a hard hat on, and he was kind of short, and he had blue jeans and a blue jean vest that had tools down tucked in it. And he walked past me, and he went in. And then there was another, I mean, they were all going in, but there was this one particular couple. It was a young man who had died years ago, and I recognized him from his mother's pictures. And he was escorting an older gentleman who was his dad, his father. Well, when they walked up to me, I looked at them and I said, "Wait a minute, I know you." And so the young man, he smiled at me, and he took his dad, and they went into the city. Well, when I got back to my room, there was a message from it took several hours for me to get off the breathing machines and well enough to get to my room. But by the time I got there, I picked up my phone, and there was a message from a joint friend of me and the mother of the young man. And I found out that her husband had died that day while I was in surgery. And I told her, I said, I know because I saw him, and he was with his son, and they went into the city together, and he's okay. Then when my daughter came to the hospital to visit me, I told her the story, and I told her about the little puppy and how I was playing with this cute little puppy. And I don't have never had a beagle puppy, so I didn't know what that was all about. Well, she told me that she had to call the police on her neighbor because her neighbor was seen beating his beagle puppy to death. And the police came and arrested him, and the beagle died. And I told her, I said, "Oh, honey," I said, "that beagle's fine. He's just roly poly and chubby and happy and cute, and he's fine. Don't worry, he's okay." So that made her feel better. And I think that the whole reason that that particular near-death experience happened was that I could come back and I could help these people. And it was also confirmable. Um, you know,
Yeah, you had
I didn't,
validation.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's
It was
amazing.
something I saw that was actually someone else was able to confirm and say, yes, that did happen, or
Yeah.
yes. Now, my fourth one was extremely different than any of the others, very, very different. And I wasn't afraid to die, but since I'm in all of the Facebook near death experience groups and all, there was a time when everybody was talking about the void. And I was like, oh God, no, 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 no. Please, if I die, don't send me there. Please, 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 please. And I would have nightmares about it. Not dying, but being in there. Well, I had I have seizures from the lightning. And I had a bad seizure, and they hospitalized me for observation. And I had I died from respiratory acidosis or hypoventilation from allergic reaction to some medication. And only thing I knew, I was asleep in my bed, and I was curled up in the fetal position. And then I am taken out of my body, and I'm going up, up, up. And it was kind of like floating like a helium balloon, just very gentle floating, but going up. And it was like I went past the sky, I went into the you know outer space, or wherever it was dark, where it's dark. But I was wrapped in this black velvet, soft, cozy, warm blanket, and I could see myself in the blanket, and I could see myself from outside of the blanket. And I can see myself in the blanket and I'm curled in the fetal position. And actually, it was so cozy and so, I felt so protected and, you know, um, but I felt like a baby in the womb again, um, inside this black, whatever this black encasement was. And you know how you hold fabric up to a light and you can see the little holes, and they kind of look like stars. Well, that's what it looked like. There was a light on the outside, and I could look through the black and I could see these little, what looked like stars. And I thought, oh, how interesting. I like it better in the black. So it didn't impress me. I was like, that's nice, but I'll stay in here where it's cozy and warm. And I had the feeling that there were other people around, there were other souls around, but I wasn't concerned about them. I was just in my own little, and I was sleeping and I was curled up like a baby. And then there was that huge loving presence again. And he was tall. And I mean, if you could imagine the roof, outer space having a roof, he's bumping his head on the roof. That's how big he is. He's huge. He's tall. He's just enormous. But yet he has no form. He's formless. So how I could tell he was huge, I don't know. But he was just huge. And it was the same loving presence that was there in my first near-death experience. And he was just saying, it was him and either my soul or another, maybe an angel, or I don't know. But they were having a conversation about whether I was to stay or go. Because if it was up to me, I was done. I was leaving. I heard him say, let's not make a hasty decision. Let's think about this. Just let me hold you. I'll just hold you. We'll think about this. Let's take some time. And I heard him say, I know you're depressed. I know you don't feel well. But let's just think about this. So he was just holding me in his gigantic hands, and I'm just like this big in his hands, and he's just holding me. He held me there for a while. It probably wasn't very long, but it seemed like a long, long time because there wasn't any time. And I just felt that love and that protection and that warm, cozy feeling. And then all of a sudden, it was like a vacuum sucking me down, down, down. And I'm back in my bed, and there's a doctor standing over me, and she's screaming at me. And they have a non-breather oxygen mask on my face. And there's nurses everywhere. And I open my eyes and I'm like, oh my word, you come from this beautiful, dark, cozy place, and there's bright lights, and it's like, oh. And I saw my husband standing over in the corner of the room, and he just had this horrible look on his face. And I thought, what in the world, but the nurses stayed with me for quite a while. The doctor quit screaming in my ear when I told her to chill out. Could you please stop that? you know. But they stayed with me to make sure that my breathing was okay. But that was the last experience.
Do you remember the first time you had an actual, official conversation with someone in your family that told about one of these experiences?
Well, it was after I talked to Ren, the medicine woman, um, and I tried to explain it to my spouse at the time, and he was just, I thought I was nuts. I did talk to my daughter about it, because of the puppy. She didn't quite know what to think about the whole you know, she was just shocked about the puppy, but she didn't know what to call it either. And my other daughter, my older daughter, she actually saw the char marks on the stairs, so she knew that something had happened. Um, they didn't quite know how, they didn't understand the way I was talking, because I was in what I call the pink bubble, which for about 6 months, which is that oneness with God, the oneness with everyone. And I could see far distances, very big, extreme details. I could hear things. I was seeing rainbows at night. I was not on medication. I was not hallucinating. These things were just like I was having these experiences. And I would call Ren every day. Ren, why was I seeing that? What does that mean? Because she was really the only one that I could talk to that understood what I was talking about. And but I didn't come out publicly with it. I had, it was a long, long time before I actually
Like
came
over
out
over 20 years, right?
Yeah.
Well, I've really enjoyed speaking with you. This has been a lot of fun. Do you have any
It,
takeaway message for the viewers? Maybe as for some of them that have, this ongoing fear of death.
Death is nothing more than walking from one room in your house to the next room. It is so flawless and so seamless. It's nothing to be afraid of. And you still are who you are. When I died, I looked down the front of me to see if I still had a body. And I did still have a body. I looked like me, only better, a better version. Yay. And, I could see my hair going down the front of me. And I saw my bare feet standing in the grass. I could feel the coolness. But what is so important that I try to tell people is you don't lose your identity. You don't just dissolve into nothing, because God made you to be exactly who you are. And there is not another person on this planet, or has ever been or will ever be, that will be exactly like you. And so your identity is important. And one of the things that God told me was that no matter how tiny we might be in the vastness of all that He created, we are intricately important to everything that He created. We are all connected, and we are all dependent upon each other. And the other thing was that He loves you so much that you are in the divine mind of God 24/7, every second of every day. And if He stopped thinking about you for even 1 second, you would just poof, as if you never were. You would just be gone. So as long as you're here, you know that you are in His mind all the time. And He loves you that much. And He loves you that much, and the next person that much, and the next person. And He could do that because He is omnipresent and He is omnipotent, which means He is everywhere at the same time, and He is all knowing, and He doesn't make mistakes. That's one of the things He told me, because I thought I was a big mistake. I wasn't. And God can speak in many ways, not just through the Bible, but He can speak through music, and He can speak through beautiful clouds, or animals, or other people, or other holy books, or road signs, or anything He wants to talk to you through to get the message across. He can. And people just need to know how much they're loved and how important they are to everything that He created. And death doesn't hurt. In fact, the moment your spirit leaves your body, any pain that you might be in, everybody has to die. It's just a matter of how and when. And maybe the dying process may not be so pleasant, but once you die, once your spirit leaves your body, there's no pain. You feel nothing but that huge love. Um, it. I used to be scared of it too when I was younger, you know, but since I had my experience, I know there is more. That this earth is not all there is. In fact, this is like a virtual reality game. What's real is what's on the other side. And your loved ones and your pets, they'll all be there for you.
Hmm.
So,
Sharon, thank you so much for being so generous, and I'm just I appreciate you so much for being here and sharing your experiences with us. It means everything to me, and thank you from the bottom of my heart.
well, thank you. It's been an honor to be here, and you're just amazing. And I'm sending you virtual hugs.
Thank you, and right back at you.
Thank
God
you.
bless you. Thank you so much.
God bless you too.